Okay, welcome to the first video. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to buy the best possible card for the least amount of money to do specifically what you want to do with your computer, so that you don't do too much, but at the same time that you keep room for expandability in case that you want to have more in the future without having to replace, the whole box, the whole computer. So let's take a look. I think the main concern that most people have is to buy the best card for the money, for the best card so that you have a per dollar performance that is the highest possible for the least amount of money. So I will show you a graph that shows exactly that. It's not because you pay more that you necessarily get a better card, or it's not because you pay less that you get a card that's worse. In fact, there are cards sometimes that you can pay $300 and it's going to be better than a $500 card. There are many reasons for this. We'll go in details in that. So basically, when you choose a card, you need to consider 4 items. The first one is the use type. What are you buying it for? For example, there are people that don't have a lot of space and they want really a small computer case. So in that case, what they're going to be looking is for a low profile. It's for a low profile card like this one that's going to fit in a small box. So a low profile card, most of the time, the usual length of a card is about this, and this is one of the smallest that you can get in terms of length. But if you get like a gamer card, the gamer card is going to be like this. It's going to be really thick and it's going to be about this length. So you really need to be careful about what is the amount of space that you have in your box. And also, if you want to buy like a small case, oftentimes it's not well ventilated, so it's good to have, like in this case, a card that doesn't have any fans. So the second case is going to be for somebody who wants to put a computer in the living room or in a conference room for any business. Then you need like a nice, good-looking, sleek PC, and most of the time these type of PC are smaller, so it's the same thing as the small box. Even if the PC is bigger, usually they're thinner. So you're going to need the same thing. You're going to need something that's low profile. Oftentimes it's going to be low power because the power supply is not going to be big enough for a powerful card. And at the same time, you're going to need something that's really high reliability. Again, for something that's really high reliability, you can buy a card that doesn't have a fan. So you'll put all the chances on your side. The third thing, it's expandability. So basically it's buying for the future. There's nothing worse than buying a PC that can only fit 4 monitors, and after 2 months you're like, yeah, I really enjoy it. I want to add 4 more, which is exactly what I did here with this particular computer. I had 4 at the start, and then 6 months after I bought the 4 others. So basically, you want to make sure that you have enough space in your box to put another card, or in the worst case scenario, you can just swap the card for another one. But make sure that when you buy your computer, you have enough space for future expandability. Number 4, if you want a gaming PC. Like, it's all good to have a gaming PC, but one of the things that I've noticed in the years is that if you have gaming cards and you had like business card for a multiple monitor setup, sometimes it really gets buggy with Windows. Windows is buggy, so sometimes it's gonna get buggy if you have more cards that are really different. So it's best to avoid it whenever possible. So basically, if you're gaming and you still want to have like a setup like this, to have many monitors, then there are really good cards that can do exactly that. For example, there's it's called the Radeon HD 7870 Infinity 6. So basically it's a super powerful card that you can run any game at full resolution, full specs, and at the same time can run 6 monitors from one card. So that's a really good choice. Now the second point. The second point is basically what is your budget for your cards. Again, sometimes it's slightly more expensive to get like a 6 monitor card than to get two 3 monitor card. But in the end, if you want something that's expandable, if you have 2 slots and you want maybe you want to have 8 monitors. If you buy right away a 6 monitor card, you plug your 4 monitor, and then afterwards you decide to want to add 2, then you can add just like a $40 basic card that's gonna add the 2 extra monitors so that you can plug your 8 monitors. So it's really good that for your budget you buy basically the least expensive that's gonna allow you to expand in the future. Also, really key information: never ever buy a brand new card that just came out in the market. You're running into trouble for many reasons. One of them is that there's always some manufacturing problems in the first few batches of cards. Just like if you buy a brand new card, like the first version they do for that particular brand, you're going to run into a problem. That's like, it's always the case. So technically you could wait maybe 4, 5, 6 months before buying a specific card. And also, when the card is really new, oftentimes there's no drivers, or the drivers are not up to date. So as soon as you want to play a game or use a software, Photoshop or anything, you can run into many driver problems. And since it's really new, it takes usually more time to update the drivers. So that's really one bad thing. The other thing is, never buy the cheapest and never buy the most expensive. Usually the best choice is always to buy the most popular mid-range card, both for price per performance, but also for the same reason, the drivers, if it's popular, the drivers are updated really often, so you'll never run out, you'll never have problem with display bugs or anything, or games crashing. The other thing is that when you buy a cheap card, oftentimes you'll run into instability issues, drivers issues. It could just die on you, or it could be even worse, it could be dead in the box when you receive it. So really avoid at all costs cheap cards. And this goes for cheap high-end card, cheap mid-range card, and cheap cards. So never buy the cheap version. Same thing for the best. If you buy the best, it's like buying basically the newest. So when you buy the best card, oftentimes the drivers are not up to date. First of all, you get the worst price, the worst dollar per performance ratio of all cards. So it's never really good. You're better to buy a mid-range card every 2 years that are like $250 than to buy one $600 card every 4 or 5 years. It's really not a good idea. Also, should you buy one or many cards? Like I said before, as much as you can, try to buy only one card. So if you want, I think there are now like 8 monitor cards. They're pretty expensive, but usually you can get away with a 6 monitor card for pretty cheap. So if you think you could have up to 6 monitors on your setup, if you're a day trader, if you're a high affinity gamer, or if you're putting a business display like in the shopping center or anything, go for one card whenever possible. It's gonna avoid a ton of problems. So how many cards? Like if you want to do, like I said before, if you want to do business and if you want to do gaming, business application like Photoshops and everything, then buy a gaming card that can also have 6 outputs, like in the case of the Radeon HD 7870 Infinity 6. It's a really good card. You're going to be able to game all you want, and you're going to be able to edit video, Photoshop, or anything else you want to do. Last point, how many monitors total do you want? Some people can afford 8 monitors, an 8 monitor computer like this one right away. This kind of setup I think costs like just a bit more than $3,000, which is not a lot. It's a lot for some people, but if you buy like an 8 monitor setup, it's actually pretty cheap. So even if you're not sure if you want more or anything, make room for the future. Oftentimes I wanted to change something in my computer just to notice that, I don't know, like 2 years earlier I bought a motherboard that only had 1 expansion slot, and as soon as I wanted to add something else, I couldn't. So basically I had to change, and if you change a motherboard, you have to change everything around it. So again, the last thing you want is to buy another full case in the future, because when you sell used computer parts, you're gonna sell them at 30% or even lower of the original price that you paid. Let's end with the most common pitfall that you can have when you buy a new video card. The first pitfall is that there are a lot of errors on websites. So basically, product description is wrong, specs have errors. They're gonna tell you that the particular video card runs 4 monitors when it runs 2, or runs 2 when it runs 4, or sometimes they're just gonna say run multiple monitor, but you don't know what's the amount. On Tiger Direct there's a lot of that. So that's the first thing. So you really need to watch out. If you want to buy a card, make sure to check either on NVIDIA's website or ATI website, which are the two main card manufacturers. So double check that the card does really what they say it does on the website, because that can lead you to a lot of errors, misspending and waiting for the replacement and etc. The second thing is connectivity. Oftentimes when you buy a monitor, it's gonna come with one of these two cables. So usually it's gonna be one or the other. As you can see, this one is a VGA, that's a DVI, and they never package two, so it's one or the other. Most of the time it's gonna be a VGA. So when you buy a card, make sure that you have the proper ports at the end. So basically in this card I have 3. The first one is a VGA, that one is HDMI, and then you have DVI. So if I plug 2 monitors, this means that I'm going to need to have an adapter to put at the end if I have 2 VGA cables, or if you can just buy another cable. But make sure that when you buy the card, make sure that you have the right connectors for it. That's a really common. I've made that mistakes a lot and that sucks. Also, just a parenthesis, when you see here there's three outputs, this doesn't mean that this card can run 3 monitors. It just means that you have 3 choices, that you can either plug this and this, this and this, this and this, etc. So basically you can run 2 out of 3, any 2 out of 3 outputs, but not the 3 at the same time. So this is a dual monitor card. Also, the third pitfall, I've said it a few times in the video, one of the worst mistake is going for the cheapest part. Any parts in the computer, never ever go for the cheapest. You'll rage, you'll get the blue screen of death, it's gonna crash, it's gonna be unstable, it's gonna be unpleasant, you're gonna lose your data when you're doing stuff. So go for any mid-range. So basically if you're buying a cheap card between $50 and $25 and $100, buy something in the $50 range. Never buy the one that's $25 in special, or don't buy the one that's $100, because it's potentially useless. The fourth and last thing that I also got caught on, and people never ever think about it, is keep in mind the power consumptions. So for 2 reasons, 3 reasons in fact. The first one is that it could cost you a few $100s per year in electricity if you have many monitors and you have a super powerful card. The second thing is, if in your computer, if you have a 400 or 500 watt power supply and you have 2 cards or 1 powerful card, then your computer is not going to run, or it's going to be really unstable, and you're not going to know why. It's because the card draws too much juice. So be really careful with that. The third thing, the one that nobody ever think about, is that, like for example here, I have 1 outlet below and everything is plugged on that outlet. So it's a good thing, because here those are all LED monitors, so they're not LCD, so they consume less power. The other thing is, I got low power cards. I have another one just like this one in that computer. So basically they use almost no power, a few, I think 20 or 30 watts, instead of like up to 200 or 300 with the big cards. So basically when you plug everything in one plug, what can happen is that your breaker are gonna jump. So it's one thing that nobody thinks about. So make sure that you have enough power outlets that are not connected all to the same breaker, or just make sure that you're not exceeding the capacity of that breaker. In the worst case scenario, you can also just buy an extension cord that you can plug on an outlet further that is not plugged to the same breaker. So there's always a way to go around it, but just keep that in mind. So that's all. So that's all for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned a little bit more about how to buy a good video card for your next multi-monitor PC. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Otherwise, if you check below this video, there's going to be your four best choice for video card for this month. So basically there's going to be a dual monitor card, a 3 monitor card, a 4 monitor, and a 6 monitor card. Those are all mostly business cards, so basically they're not to play games, they're really to build systems like this. Take a look, they're all the best price for the best performance for the lowest price, and they're all mid-range, highly popular cards, so you're not gonna have trouble with these ones. They're really good. Enjoy, and if you have questions, don't hesitate. Thank you.